Mace Windu's presence at the Jedi Temple during Operation Nightfall represents a fascinating divergence in Star Wars lore. The operation, led by Anakin Skywalker, newly christened as Darth Vader, and the elite 501st Legion, saw the wholesale slaughter of Jedi within the temple. Windu's reputation as a master combatant and strategist, coupled with his skill in the rare Vapad lightsaber form, suggests his intervention could have significantly altered the outcome. Mace Windu was one of the Jedi Order's most formidable warriors. His ability to channel his inner darkness and redirect it into controlled, disciplined combat made him one of the few Jedi capable of matching, if not overpowering, the ferocity of a Sith. His mastery of Vapad allowed him to combat dark-side users like Palpatine, whose raw power in the Force far exceeded that of most adversaries. If Windu had returned to the temple before the onslaught of clones and Vader, he would have brought not only unparalleled combat skill, but also the tactical acumen needed to rally the remaining Jedi and organize a cohesive defense. The Jedi Temple was not defenseless. Even during Operation Nightfall, many skilled Jedi fought valiantly to repel the invaders. However, without centralized leadership or an overarching strategy, their efforts were fragmented and ultimately overwhelmed by the clones' coordination and sheer numbers. Mace Windu, known for his commanding presence and unshakable resolve, would have brought that much-needed cohesion. He would have been able to galvanize the remaining Jedi and focus their efforts on critical defensive positions, such as the temple's entrances or the Hall of Archives, where many younglings and non-combatants sought refuge. Anakin Skywalker's turn to the dark side was still fresh during this event. Despite his raw power and lightsaber prowess, his transformation into Darth Vader was incomplete, leaving vulnerabilities that Mace Windu would have exploited. The duel between Windu and Palpatine earlier in the day showcased Windu's ability to press an advantage against even the most formidable Sith. Against Anakin, who lacked the strategic experience and maturity that Windu possessed, it is likely that Windu's combination of tactical superiority and refined combat skills would have overwhelmed the newly christened Sith Lord. Moreover, Windu's presence would have demoralized the clone troopers. Clones were highly disciplined and loyal to the Republic, but their indoctrination relied heavily on the Jedi being absent or caught unaware. The sight of a Jedi as iconic and powerful as Mace Windu leading a counteroffensive would have disrupted their psychological advantage. The clones were prepared to execute Order 66 under the assumption that the Jedi would be isolated and disoriented, not unified under one of the Order's greatest warriors. A crucial factor to consider is the Jedi younglings and Padawans. Without Windu, the young Jedi were left defenseless against the brutality of the clones and Anakin's onslaught. Windu's swift and decisive actions would have prioritized their evacuation, ensuring their survival and preserving the future of the Jedi Order. While defending the temple was important, Windu would have understood that saving lives was paramount. His leadership could have coordinated a retreat, allowing many Jedi to escape Coruscant and regroup later. In a direct confrontation, Windu would have been an unstoppable force against the clones. His use of the Force, paired with his lightsaber combat abilities, would have enabled him to cut through large numbers of troopers with efficiency. While the clones' numbers were significant, their standardized tactics and reliance on numerical superiority would have made them vulnerable to Windu's calculated attacks. His ability to predict and counter their strategies would have shifted the momentum in the Jedi's favor. Against Anakin, the duel would have been decisive. While Anakin was immensely powerful, he lacked the refined control and discipline that Windu wielded. Windu's combat style was designed to harness and neutralize the dark side, which would have left Anakin at a significant disadvantage. The emotional turmoil that Anakin was experiencing, his recent betrayal of the Jedi, his inner conflict, and the weight of his actions would have been exploited by Windu, who was adept at turning an opponent's weaknesses into strengths for himself. Even if Anakin managed to match Windu for a time, the presence of other Jedi fighting alongside him would have sealed Vader's fate. The Jedi Order was not without its skilled warriors during Operation Nightfall, and under Windu's leadership, they would have coordinated their efforts to overwhelm Vader. While Windu engaged him in combat, other Jedi could have secured vital positions, created diversions, or ensured the evacuation of civilians. The sheer unity and purpose that Windu would have brought to the defenders would have turned the tide against the invaders. Ultimately, Mace Windu's presence at the temple would have fundamentally changed the dynamic of Operation Nightfall. Instead of a tragic massacre, the Jedi might have inflicted significant losses on the clones and thwarted the attack. Anakin's betrayal could have been stopped in its tracks, and the Sith's plans delayed or derailed entirely. Though the Sith's overarching schemes might not have ended there, the survival of key Jedi under Windu's command would have given the Order a fighting chance to regroup, reorganize, and resist the Empire's rise. In the aftermath of an initial counterattack led by Mace Windu, the tactical advantage would likely have shifted significantly. The clones' numerical superiority was a critical factor in their assault, but their reliance on the element of surprise and overwhelming firepower left them ill-prepared for prolonged resistance, especially from Jedi who had recovered from the initial shock of betrayal. With Windu organizing the remaining defenders, the temple would have transformed from a site of massacre into a bastion of fierce resistance. Mace Windu's command would have rallied surviving Jedi Masters, Knights, and Padawans into a coordinated defense. This cohesion would have forced the invading clones into narrow choke points, minimizing their numerical advantage and turning the temple's architecture into an ally for the Jedi. Windu, a master of battlefield strategy, would have used his keen understanding of the Force to anticipate the clones' movements and tactics, redirecting Jedi to fortify crucial areas while counterattacking in strategic bursts. The chaos and confusion that followed Order 66 would have been tempered under his leadership, allowing the Jedi to fight with renewed focus. Anakin, now Darth Vader, would have faced a far more daunting challenge in this scenario. Though his combat skills and force power were immense, he was untested in leading an operation of this magnitude and was still adjusting to his role as a Sith. His emotional instability and inexperience in commanding troops under pressure would have put him at a disadvantage against Windu, a seasoned general with years of experience from the Clone Wars. While Anakin was consumed by rage and the dark side, Windu's ability to channel such energy into Vapad would have turned that aggression against him. The psychological impact on Anakin cannot be overstated. Facing the man who had almost defeated Palpatine just hours earlier would have shaken his confidence, forcing him to confront the enormity of his choices. Windu, who had seen Anakin's potential but also recognized his susceptibility to the dark side, would have understood how to exploit this emotional vulnerability. In combat, Anakin's impulsiveness and overconfidence would have played directly into Windu's hands, allowing the seasoned Jedi to maintain control of the fight and gradually wear down his opponent. Beyond the physical confrontation, Windu's presence would have symbolized the enduring strength of the Jedi Order. This psychological advantage would not only embolden the defenders but also sow doubt among the clones. While they were bred for loyalty and discipline, the clones were not impervious to fear or hesitation. A prolonged and organized defense of the temple, especially one led by Windu, would have tested their resolve. The clones' inability to secure a quick victory could have led to fractures in their ranks or delayed reinforcements, buying the Jedi precious time to regroup. The younglings and non-combatants within the temple would have stood a far greater chance of survival under Windu's leadership. Recognizing the importance of preserving the Jedi Order's future, Windu would have prioritized their evacuation through secret passages or via Coruscant's undercity. The temple had numerous hidden exits and emergency protocols, which Windu, as a senior member of the Council, would have known intimately. His ability to coordinate a defensive stand while orchestrating an evacuation underscores his unparalleled skill as a leader. As the battle continued, it is conceivable that Windu and the defenders could have held out long enough for external aid to arrive. Jedi scattered across the galaxy during the execution of Order 66 would have sensed the disturbance in the Force and potentially converged on Coruscant. Additionally, allies of the Jedi within the Senate, sympathetic citizens, or even disillusioned clones could have joined the resistance. While the temple was surrounded by the Grand Army of the Republic, a prolonged defense would have strained Palpatine's resources, forcing him to divert attention from consolidating his power elsewhere. Even if ultimate victory within the temple remained out of reach, Mace Windu's presence would have ensured that the Jedi Order did not suffer as devastating a loss. The deaths of so many younglings and the wholesale eradication of the Order's leadership could have been mitigated, leaving the Jedi with a stronger foundation from which to rebuild. The survival of even a few more Jedi Masters under Windu's guidance would have made a significant difference in the Order's ability to resist the Empire in the years to come. It is also worth considering the ripple effects beyond the immediate battle. If Windu had survived and successfully repelled the initial assault, he would have emerged as the de facto leader of the Jedi Order. His resilience and tactical prowess would have made him a rallying point for surviving Jedi across the galaxy, giving the Order a central figure around whom to rebuild. Windu's deep understanding of the dark side and his first-hand experience with Palpatine would have made him a formidable opponent in any future confrontation with the Sith. The galaxy itself might have responded differently to the emergence of the Empire. With Windu and other Jedi leading a visible resistance, public perception of the Jedi might have shifted from betrayal to martyrdom. The narrative that the Jedi had turned against the Republic, a key component of Palpatine's propaganda, would have been harder to sustain in the face of a valiant and public stand at the Temple. This could have galvanized opposition to the Empire, weakening Palpatine's grip on power and emboldening factions that sought to challenge his rule. In this alternate timeline, the Sith's path to galactic domination would have been far less certain. While the loss of the Jedi Temple as a central hub might have been inevitable, the survival of its defenders under Windu's leadership would have left the Order with a fighting chance. Anakin Skywalker's descent into Darth Vader might have been curtailed or even reversed, depending on the outcome of his confrontation with Windu. The Jedi's principles of hope, unity, and resilience would have endured, providing a powerful counterpoint to the Sith's reign of fear and oppression.